Directing pastor, not done yet, of Effingham Centenary United Methodist Church. Hi, I'm just Joe. 1, 2, 3. Hi, Joe. 1, 2, 3. You guys sound good. I love it. I get to work with Jessica, who is coming up here right now. This is Jessica. 1, 2, 3. Hi, Jessica. And if you were here last year when we did a very brief time, all of us together, it was entitled Reaching the Next Generation, Ministry with Gen Xers and Millennials. If you were here, you will know some of what we covered, and then we're going to zoom way past that. But if you were here last year, consider that season 1. This is now season 2, episode 1, because episode 2 will be tomorrow. And I'm glad somebody got that. Thank you. Last year, when we talked about what to do, we faced the fact that the people called millennials were those born after 1980. We said that it's basically, for our purposes here, we're talking about people between the ages then of 16 and 35. Everybody on board? So whoever you're picturing in your home church or in your town, or whoever is the cashier at the Hucks or the Casey's, or yeah. That's that age bracket. Also last year, just to recap, what we also talked about is the fact that this hasn't changed from generation to generation to generation. There is no monolithic millennial. This is what a millennial looks like. This is what their lifestyle. No. They are single. They are people who are happily married without children. They are miserably married people with children. They're college students, on and on and on and on. The question is, for us, are we doing ministry to them or are we doing ministry with them? Somebody say amen. And the correct answer is we want to be doing ministry. You guys sound good. You guys, yes, we want to be doing ministry with them. And are we being mindful of the needs of millennials when we invite them to participate? I know of a situation where people on a committee were upset that a member could not come, and she could not come because of a child care issue because of when the group met, and they were not willing to change when they met. I hope she's still on that committee, on that team. I really, really do. They are very active in things of social justice. They sound like a bunch of United Methodists at that point, don't they? In our congregation, we have 2 people, one of whom tomorrow we'll have a charge conference for. And that person wants to be not a parish pastor, but wants to be something in the area of social activism. And couldn't I do that through the United Methodist Church? Person's in his mid-20s, happily married, kid, the whole bit. And I'm like, let's get together. We got together. Let's have you meet with Staff Parish. They had a blast. Tomorrow, the district superintendent will be there. We'll get things underway with getting that person in the inquiry process to see where that person might be able to serve. We have a second person who she and her college roommate want to get some kind of family training going in a country far, far to the south of here where they have no special needs children. Because when they're born, the parents kill the special needs children and quite literally bury them in the front yard because that's not acceptable to have, So she, who is a special ed person, teacher, major, she wants to get some kind of training going for families, and what better place than through the church? And I'm like, I'm with you. Let's see if we can't figure something out. So we're kind of working on that. Last year, we also said that it's very important, rather than approaching a millennial, same as anybody else, here's what you need to be doing. Ask them what they're interested in. Ask them what they're interested in. And last year when we gathered for season 1, we thought together about some possibilities for that. We want this to be eminently practical. That's why you have a 3x5 index card. Who does not have one? If you don't have a fresh blank, toss your hand up and we'll get somebody there. Someone will be coming your way. Coming over. Who can do that? Thank you, Jessica, or an eager volunteer will be getting an index card to you. On this, we invite you to write a question you might have for the soon-to-be-seen panel of actual living, breathing specimens called millennials. How much fun is this? Clap for the eager volunteers who are going to be on the panel long before they get here. Clap for them. Clap for them. Good stuff, good stuff. And if you're going, everybody else has this figured out, it's just the church. No, it's just my church. Not true at all. The reality is the outside world, the business world, and the workforce, and now we're into season 2, episode 1. So in the outside world, the non-church world, the regular business world and workforce, 1 in 3 people in the workforce is a millennial. 1 in 3 is a millennial. Meanwhile, in the church, not just our denomination, just among pastors, 1 in 7 pastors is under the age of 40. We have to stretch to even get 1 in 40. In your own local church, what percentage of your lay leadership are millennials? Leave that with you. In the business world, they have found that the people called millennials are very much focused on feedback, and they want immediate connection. Whatever type social media platform they're involved in, we need to be involved in. That whole interconnectedness thing, that constantly giving and receiving reactions and responses, that's good. Yet in the business world, only 19% of the people called millennials say they ever get any feedback from a manager or anybody else at work. Only 19%. What would the percentage be in your church of millennials who say they regularly hear from the pastor or other key leaders? In the business world, they found that any person of this age group who gets frequent reinforcement, feedback, all of that is twice as likely to be engaged at work as people who don't. Well, that's kind of self-evident. Yeah, then why aren't we doing that? How can we do that? 3 quick things before we turn things over. Number 1 is check in often. Check in often. Talk to one of the people who's a millennial in your church and see where they are online. See what their social, platform presence, where they are. Are they people that are just on old school Facebook, or are they people that tweet? Are they Instagram? Are they something else? You know what to do. And if you're going, well, they told me about this, but they don't really have anything going, a private page or a membership in a group is a good way for them to take advantage and you to reach them. You can get hold of them anytime that way. They can get hold of you. And more than anything else, the business world has found that millennials like to feel they're part of something larger than themselves. Did anybody else just flash to the United Methodist Church and what God is doing? Yeah. Good stuff. Without further ado, I'll be passing among you in just a moment to pick up your index cards with your questions. So please go ahead and be writing those down. It's my joy to turn things over to my colleague, cohort, and very, very good friend, Jessica, and then she will introduce all the panelists. Clap for all these guys. This is good stuff, y'all. This is good. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you, Dick.
So I would like to invite the members of our panel to come forward. We only have 6 chairs, but if some of you want to stand here, or we can share microphones and whatnot, but we have quite a few young adults who have agreed to be on our panel, and I'm so thankful for all of them. But in the spirit of the main point of our workshop last year, and what I want to emphasize to you this year, that the most important thing that you can do in order to reach millennials, in order to reach young adults, and to bring youth and young adults into your church is to talk to them. And so in the spirit of that, we're going to talk with our young adults, our millennials, this afternoon. This comes at the great suggestion of Patrick, and so we are thankful for his great idea to be a part of this wonderful workshop today. And so I'm going to have each member of our panel just kind of say who you are and just a little bit about yourself. If you're a college student currently, if you are a pastor, if you are a pastor's kid, whatever you want to share about yourself, just real quick, and just a couple of sentences. Share your name and a little bit about yourself. You go ahead.
My name is David Bell. I am a PK squared, and by that I mean both of my parents are ministers here within the IGRC. I am finishing up my education degree at Southern Illinois University Carbondale, and after that I will be seeking political office in Madison County.
I'm Caleb McGregor. I don't know if anyone in my family's been in ministry except maybe a few generations back, but it was my involvement in church growing up that has brought me to pastor as well, and I will be commissioned this year and currently serving a 2-point charge.
I am Amy Shreve, and I am conference staff now for coordinating higher ed and campus ministry. My dad is no longer a pastor in the West Ohio Conference. He retired to Monday. It's pretty exciting, a little scary. And I've worked with youth and young adults for the last while. I'm not going to tell you how long.
I'm Erin Totten. I am a provisional elder in this annual conference. You might see my name around the different places, but I am the chair of the Conference Young Adult Ministry that we've brought back to life. Come visit us at our table, and we want to engage you even further in conversations on how we can serve the young adults of this annual conference.
Hi, I'm Patrick Newton. I am a PK. I have been married for 6 years and I have a child on the way. I am representing kind of the older millennial voice. I'm like right on the edge, depending on which study you look at. So, I'm also conference staff, if you didn't know. Coordinator of Camp and Retreat Ministry and Youth and Young Adult Ministries.
Hi, my name is Skylar James, and I grew up in the church and became really passionate about it. No one in my family is clergy or church staff or anything like that. I am going to be a senior in the fall at Concordia University in Chicago, and I'm majoring in communication and a theology minor with the hope of going to seminary and pursuing a pastoral ministry. So, yeah.
Hi, my name is Laura Rayson. I'm a PK squared as well. I've been in the church my whole life, and both of my parents are currently pastors in the United Methodist Church. And I'm also at Greenville College studying pastoral ministries as well.
Hi, I'm Whitney Murphy. I'm from Canton, Illinois. I went to Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. I was involved in the Wesley Foundation. I just obtained my degree in crop, soil, and environmental management. I'll be working at the Little Grass United Methodist Camp as their environmental educator and lifeguard. And I have started the process of candidacy and look forward to finishing it.
We are thankful for all of the members of our panel. Will you think them with me? And as Joe continues to collect our note cards with our questions, I just wanted to start off with one question, just for each one of you, or for whoever wants to answer. What has, many of you have expressed that you are experiencing calls to ministry, or that you are in the process, or that you are already currently serving as pastors. What keeps you involved in the United Methodist Church? Why do you want to be a part of the United Methodist Church? What is it about it that you want to be a part of?
I'll go. So growing up in the United Methodist Church, I was involved with a lot of conference youth programs, and I just met a lot of people and really fell in love with the connectiveness and just growing together with friends in faith. And I think that's what has kept me around, just the connections that I've made, the people that I know and love and support me throughout my journey in my faith. So that's one reason for me.
I'll say that I think it's very biased of me to say this because I don't know anything else but the United Methodist Church, but I do know that I feel that our theology of grace and love our emphasis of that is certainly something that is needed in a time and place as this. And I think that when done right, I think it is a very attractive theology that we have with us.
I want to share. So we have moved around in the last 5 years and have looked at lots of different churches. My family, I have 2 little kids and my husband. And things that call me back to the United Methodist Church, the theology of grace, the John Wesley saying his heart is strangely warmed. As I've attended Presbyterian churches, they don't understand that as much. But things that we look for as a family in a church is that they affirm women in ministry and that both sexes are given equal standing in the church, and that's really important. And it wasn't until I moved to Kentucky and predominantly Catholic communities that I realized that eliminated 95% of the churches that we could look at. So those are, and as I raise my children, I want them to know
that God looks like all of us and not just like a white man. And so we've looked for churches that have a children's ministry program that shows the broad spectrum of color and diversity among creation.
I am a millennial too, and I don't get to choose what church I go to. I mean, I'm appointed at the will of the bishop and the cabinet, but I am a mom of 2 little kids, and if I could choose a church, and I'm thankful to be in a church currently that is like this, I would want a place that, and I found this is the United Methodist Church, where my children are also welcome as part of the church, that it is not just a place where us who can sit still and be quiet and sit in the pews are welcome to be in worship, but that it's also a place where the noises of my 2-year-old running up and down the aisle or screaming for mommy who is up front, or my 4-year-old who sings as loudly as she can, he lives, from the pew, where they're welcome in worship as well. And that's the United Methodist Church. And I'm thankful that that my family, my whole family, not just those who can sit still and be quiet, are welcome in church. But as millennials with young children, I think that's an important thing. Does anybody else have anything they want to add? Joe, can we have some of the note cards?
Jessica, I do want to challenge you on that too, that millennials are, less and less of them are having children or are single. And so as much as our church ministry tends to engage young families, we also really need to be aware that more and more people are choosing not to have families or are not getting married. And what does that look like as a single person or a childless person to be a part of the church community?
That's a very good point. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, it is important that we remember that millennials are not just husband and wife and 2 kids. You know, they come in all different lifestyles, and we need to make sure we include them all. Well, we have some great questions from our group out here. So someone wants to know, how can you start a young adult ministry when you don't already have young adults in your church?
I think for that to happen, you all know some young adults. One thing that we try to do with our ministries at SIU is we try to put out questionnaires. We'll put it out on Facebook, we'll put it out on Instagram, Twitter. And really, we just want to hear from the young adults in the area that you're from. That's a good way to connect to them and make connections on what they're interested in, what you can do to facilitate that, and how to bring them into the church from that.
I'm a community pastor, and I love being out in the community, but I love being able to find my young adults where they are. And I'm located near SIUC, and I get to be part of my ministry is with them on whatever basis I can be there, but they get incorporated into the local churches. How to start a young adult ministry is invite people to coffee, invite someone over for dinner, and just build authentic conversations and connections. Adopt a college student. If they're far away from home, invite them to come over and to have lunch with you on Sunday and to bring their laundry and to watch the football game. That is so beautiful. They need you as much as we need you as much as you need us.
I would also add to that, often I hear the question, how do we reach young people, right? And when we talk about reaching, we talk about actually, like, when you think of the act of reaching, like I'm reaching for this bottle, like I'm sticking my arm out, but what's the purpose? I don't leave my arm there, right? The purpose is to bring it back to me. And I think that's where we've gotten confused about the models of ministry. The reality of young adult ministry is, if your only goal is to get that young adult person into your church, to bring them to you, to reach them and pull them in, then you should just probably not even venture down that path, if I'm being completely blunt with you. The purpose of ministry is to be in community with young people, and we do that by going where young people are. And if you're not sure where they are, on Sunday mornings, go out to brunch and skip church. I know, don't let if you're clergy, you didn't hear me say that, but really, I would even say if you are really like want to make a huge impact as a church, what would it be like if on a Sunday morning you just didn't even go to church, you actually went and had brunch in the community and met some people and saw where they were? Because here's the thing. If your only goal is to get them into your church, then you're going to continue to do this navigation where you're constantly trying to change to be whatever you think those individuals want you to be. And that's not what millennials, that's not what you are looking for, and that's certainly not what young adults are looking for. They're looking for authentic relationships, authentic communities. And that means you can have the most traditional music in your service, you can have contemporary, you can be all up on the internet in all kinds of incredible ways, but if there's no authentic relationships being created with young people, you're never going to have an actual ministry with them. With, not for, and with is kind of that really important word there. So, sorry.
So when I started going to the church that is about 2 miles away from my campus, I was looking for a United Methodist church, and I walked in there and I realized that I was probably one of like 2 millennials that was sitting in the pews that day, and it scared me so much that I was just like, didn't feel welcomed at first, but I kept coming back because I did feel welcome, and they talked to me, they hugged me and asked me what I needed, how could I be supported while I was at a school that doesn't always support my religious views. So they really wanted to help me and help grow me, but at the same time, just a suggestion, when you are working with a millennial, don't automatically assume that they can do work for you too. Sometimes they need to be served and not be the one serving all the time. So really help fill them and don't just put them to work right away, because that can be harmful too. So.
Thank you all so much. Someone had another question. How do we as the church keep you interested and excited about the church? Is there one specific thing that you think every young person likes, or is it?
Don't tell us no all the time. I've been in so many brainstorming meetings and been told no, and we're brainstorming. Tell me yes, and help me figure out how to do that.
And don't leave us out of the conversation. Yeah. Invite us to be a part of your church leadership. I would love a 19-year-old lay leader if you have one.
Before I left for SIU Carbondale, my church did invite me to one of their committee meetings, which was really exciting. But as I sat there, I realized that I was the only person that was under 40. And that was really hard. And it's hard to make connections when everyone's older than you and talking, and you don't really get the chance to give ideas and ways to connect better with all ages in our church.
So someone also asked the question about spiritual growth. What are you looking for in spiritual growth, in the category of spiritual growth from a church, when you are looking for a church to go to when you're in college, or you're seeking a church to go to with your family? What are you looking for in terms of spiritual growth?
I think that I see a lot of it in challenge me and make me doubt. And I know that doubt is the opposite of faith, but I've learned that now it's included in faith. And I notice as a pastor leading Bible studies, I love Bible studies that make us doubt, but I do know that some parishioners, they want Bible studies that reinforce what they already know, and I think that spiritual growth is about challenging and finding our growing edges, which is a very vulnerable and scary place. but I do find it very invigorating and where the Spirit moves.
As a college student, being away from home, I look for a church that will accept me, but also, as you said, challenge the way that I think and the way that my theology is, because I've grown up one way, that I like to learn other people's views and theologies and figure out where I stand also in my theology and the way that I'm growing and who I look up to and see as a mentor, kind of.
Just a quick kind of to add in, we have talked about being challenged, I do agree, but there is a fine line to toe between challenging and shouting down when discussing theology with other people, especially millennials. And I don't know, I can't answer if it's a generational gap, if it's just a theological gap, but there are instances where, at least I know I have felt when speaking to a pastor, that not only are my ideas on theology not respected, but they won't be heard at all. So trying to find that middle ground between, like I said, challenging and shouting down can be a tough thing, but it needs to happen.
So it seems we have a lot of questions about worship and about what styles of worship are interesting to young adults and what time to worship for young adults. Does anyone have any insight into this that they would like to share?
For 2 years in high school, I played the organ. I love it.
I think it goes back, as millennials have been studied and poked and prodded, we've discovered a couple of things, right? We've discovered that, as John mentioned earlier, they want to be a part of something larger. They want to be making a difference in the world. But they also are looking for authenticity. And so when I mentioned earlier, it doesn't really, in my opinion, this is just me. And so please, that's the other thing. Don't let one millennial be the voice of all millennials, just like you wouldn't do that for any other community. So from my perspective and just people I know, like for instance, I worship at a church where I don't particularly love the music all the time. I would probably do things different if I were in charge, but I'm there because I feel like the people there are authentic, and the pastor is giving challenging sermons. The community there is diverse in socioeconomic status as well as racial and ethnic and lifestyle differences. And so for me, what you're going to hear me say over and over and over is it's all going to come down to the relationship. Your community, the people you're reaching. Sunday morning may be a great time for them to worship. Saturday night might be better, but you all have been young people before and know that like what's good for me right now today, like Sunday mornings might be good for me this year, but next year I change a job or I have now I have a child in my life or something happens and now Sunday mornings are just impossible for me. So I think you also be really careful when it comes to worship that you're not constantly trying to adapt all the time. But what are some, maybe they can't make it to worship, but maybe they can make it to some other community gathering throughout the week that is more appropriate for their timing. So, and here's the last thing. We've gotten ourselves into this trap where we believe that contemporary music and lights and flash are the way to go to reach young people. And to some extent, you want the things you do to be quality. But if you think about millennials, think about their age, especially if they're kind of in the middle or the younger, they've been marketed to their entire lives. Everything they've ever seen has been flashy and screens, and so that is, we've learned to look past that for the authenticity behind that. And so I'm not saying the flash and the contemporary isn't going to draw some people, isn't going to be exciting for some people, isn't the preference of some people, but you're always going to be judged on what were you welcomed. when a young person walked in the door, were they welcomed, and were they offered the opportunity, an important part of this community? And I think, and then they can help you figure out what worship might look like or whatever. But I think for me, it's always going to come down to that relational part of ministry.
I was going to share. We chose our most recent church because of the pastor's messages. They were always on point and challenging and really good. And he also didn't shy away of what was happening in the world around us. Social justice is a big passion for me, and knowing how broken our society is. And we visited a lot of churches this fall that didn't even address the pain in the world. And I couldn't go to those churches. We needed a church that was going to address the pain in the world. So we chose that. I would love contemporary worship, but we haven't found a church that has good contemporary worship with a good message and a fitting children's program. So all of those things boil down to a good message, and they were welcoming to us. We also went to several churches that, oh, this message was good, this worship was good, but no one said hello to us. And it wasn't worth our time or energy to come back again. So we needed people to say hello to us.
The church I currently go to in Southern Illinois, it is traditional worship. When I'm back home, I usually go to a contemporary service, but one of the reasons that I chose that is because as my friend and I went to that church, every time we went, somebody new greeted us, wanting to know about us, invited us to lunch with their family afterwards. That was really nice. I live 5 hours away from my family. My friend lives about 8 hours away from hers. So it was really nice to be invited in to be a part of their family almost. So the connections are really what makes it important. I don't mind singing out of a hymnal. I don't mind singing to contemporary music. All that really matters to me is that I'm going to make connections. I'm going to spiritually grow. We can have good discussions about, oh, how was the pastor's sermon today? I like this, I didn't like this, but this was overall a great service. And that's just really, honestly, what we looked for in a church. We turned down going to a contemporary service because nobody talked to us. The pastor, whereas it might have been a pretty decent sermon, nobody was willing to talk to us, really. They're like, hello, and then they left it at that. They didn't try to get to know us. They didn't invite us in. It was almost like, oh, it's nice to see you, but bye. It's hard.
Thank you. And the relationship making and that getting to know someone and especially the invitation part is really important. And Pastor Joe said that over here someone had a great story that they be willing to share. Yes. We can't remove these from the podium.
I'll get him to the mic. Go on someone. I will work security, correct?
Real quick, we do have a question about social media and what social media platforms that you all use.
Oh, yeah.
He can.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
You guys are wonderful. Look at that back to you.
All right.
I'm Ed Zimmer. I'm from the Reddick United Methodist Church, and I'm the old lay leader. About a year ago, I decided I wasn't doing my job. I made a bucket list. I picked 10 millenniums in my community, didn't know one of them, younger people, younger families, and I went to their door, introduced myself, and that I went to the Reddick United Methodist Church. And my spiel was, I don't care what church you go to, but I'd like for you to think about going to church. Out of those first 10, I didn't find a one that was affiliated with any kind of church. A 34-year-old lady, when I asked her about church, she cried. She says, "I've never been asked to church." That's our fault. The second group of 10, I picked a little different group. They were families with small children. Again, I approached them with the same philosophy. I go to the Reddick Church. You're welcome to go there, but I would encourage you to go to any church in the community or wherever you would like. I only found one out of that 10 that went to a church any place. And it is good. I'm going to ask these people, is there material that we can get to help us to touch and to work at these families? That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you so much.
I say yes. One book I read this fall is Growing Young. It's by Powell, Mulder, and Griffin. Thanks. And it's 6 essential strategies to help young people discover and love your church. They researched churches that were growing young, and then found kind of those strategies. Some of them are basic, like warmth. Say welcome, greet people. Some of them we already do, unlocking or handing, I guess it's keychain leadership. So as I've heard your guys' introductions, most of us were given responsibility in the church when we were young, and have failed epically sometimes in that responsibility, and they kept giving us responsibility. I don't know why, but here we are, leaders in the church today. So I would encourage you to check out this book. They also wrote Sticky Faith for Families and Sticky Faith, which have been transformational for me, both as a youth pastor and now as a mother. So I would encourage you to read both of those. Or if you need a cheat, Google Powell in podcasts, and she's been interviewed several times, Kara Powell, Dr. Kara Powell, and you can just listen to her for 45 minutes and pretty much get the gist.
And if you're going,
Is it on, Joe?
No, not on. Nope.
it's on. The green light is on, has been. And if you're going on a podcast, what's a podcast? Ask one of these guys. Ask me. Ask Jessica. We'll be happy to explain this. It's real simple. If I can do this, you can do this. Appreciate Ed. Don't you clap for Ed. Who else has a quick story about something from real life that you've experienced? You are of a different age group than someone on the panel, either a good, a bad, or a blah story. Anyone at all before we go back to questions? Going once, twice, last call. Time's up. All righty, back to you, Jessica. Charles Chuck Trent says he wants the mic.
Someone suggested skip church one Sunday. One of your panel members did that one Sunday. And we all went out. Yeah, look around, Caleb. You'll see. There's a mirror there somewhere. Yes. We did get someone to come to church that Sunday. A man in his late 70s, I guess, whose wife had been trying to get him to come to church forever. And she went and said, "I can't go back to church until you come with me." And he came every Sunday until the day he died, I understand. And we only lost one couple that Sunday that never came back ever. But I think it worked out fine. They went to a very nice Baptist church across town. But don't they have a thing called trolls or crawls? Isn't it? Don't they do that at, didn't New Horizon do that? What am I trying to say? Here.
Yeah, I think we're on different pages at that point. Yeah, I was going to a bar crawl, but I think, you guys were, yeah. Can you tell us more?
No, it's something in New Horizon.
Okay, do not go out and say that we advise you to go to a bar crawl. We have no idea what the word troll means. Back to you, Jessica. Another question from the crowd.
Real quick, just if you could just share just really quickly what kind of social media that you use, just to highlight that there's lots of different kinds of social media. Someone asked if we all use old school Facebook or not.
I'm on Instagram, GroupMe, and Snapchat. Those are like my 3 most common social media sites.
Just go down the line.
I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, pretty much anything.
So I'm on Facebook. I don't use it as much just to stay connected to people. But I'm also on Instagram like all the time, Twitter just for this week pretty much, and Pinterest, good ones.
Facebook and Instagram. I also peruse Pinterest and various other things, but Facebook and Instagram.
Facebook and Instagram. I think I'm too old for Snapchat, but people tell me I'm not.
I'm just on Facebook.
I'm about on half of that. Other than that, I don't know what else that they've said or understand that. So I'll be the one that counters that I am a little old-fashioned, and if I had the choice of something digital or hard copy, I always go for the hard copy. I want a pen and I want to write all over it. So we're all different, I suppose.
So I'll just, I have a Facebook, I have an Instagram, I have a Pinterest, I have a Snapchat, I have a Tumblr, I have a Slack, I have a GroupMe, and I tell you all that to tell you that I don't use any of them. I am on every one of those sites, and the most I do is I use Facebook for political commentary once in a blue moon. I don't use it other than that, but I kind of brought it up to say, but I am on that. So there is a way to contact me. There's, counting phone and coming to my house and throwing eggs at my car, somewhere around 30 ways to contact, not really, but 30, 100 ways to contact me, even if I'm not actively involved with all of them at the same time.
Before we get to two final questions, there's a story everybody's got to hear. Take it away, Jessica.
Okay, so I am the associate pastor at St. Mary in Effingham, and I get to work with the youth and the children of the church. And the seniors, there were 5 of them this year, they decided that I needed to have a lock-in for them. And I am too old to stay up late anymore, and so I decided to take them on the train to Chicago. And so I took 5 seniors, 4 girls and a guy, and a college student went with me as my second adult, and we took the train to Chicago for the day from Effingham. And we spent the entire day in Chicago, and me being the oldest of the group, I thought, oh good, on the way home we'll sleep the whole 3 hours home. Well, I was very, very wrong, and they decided to talk, and not just talk about they were Snapchatting all day long or what we saw, but they wanted to talk about the future of the church, and they wanted to talk to me specifically about the future of our church. And I asked them, I said, what is the most important thing for you about the church? And they said, well, that we get to develop a trust and a respect with other people, that they respect us as young people, and that we learn to respect them, and that we build this level of trust with one another, that they truly seek to get to know who we are, and that we can truly get to know who they are. They wanted to share experiences with one another, not just people of their same age, but with all the people of the church and the clergy. They wanted to develop those relationships so that there could be this respect and trust, because they knew that being a part of the church was very important. And none of these young adults are preparing to go into ministry anytime soon. They're all just young adults who are headed off to college and seeking a new experience, and will be seeking churches of their own as they head off to different colleges across Illinois and Indiana, and they just were interested in those relationships. That's the most important thing, that people at the church wanted to talk with them and get to know who they are and what their passions and excitements are, and they wanted to get to know that about others in the church. And so I just want to reiterate to you that those relationships are so important. And if I hadn't taken the time to go on this crazy trip to Chicago for the day and spend the day with college or with high school students, almost college students, who can walk a lot faster than I and stay up a lot later than I can, and it took the time to do something that they enjoy, I don't think I would have gotten to learn that about them. And it's so important that we take the time to engage in the things that young people find exciting and they're passionate about, so that we can truly get to know them more and they can get to know us more as well.
2 quick questions. Quick question number 1, what are 3 things that you heard? What 3 things did you hear? I invite you to write those 3 down. We can see you. This is not television. I invite you to grab pen, paper, something to write with, or if you're going to go ahead and key it into your phone, that's cool too, but write down Write down 3 things you heard. 3 things you heard. Maybe they reinforce what you already thought. Maybe things you're like, oh, I had no idea. Or maybe it's just a sense of, huh. And we'll get to that last one in a second. As you write, here are some sidebar commentary. This is plural. Here are sidebar commentaries.
I just wanted to take a quick minute to address what Jessica had mentioned about the future of the church and how it affects millennials. I can say from personal experience, and I've tried to work with Whitney on this, I have at least 3 very close friends at Carbondale that I've invited to Wesley, and they won't come, not because we're a church, but because we're Methodist. And they see in the paper, they see in the news, they see on the internet the infighting that's going on within the Methodist Church right now, and that scares them away. Because they seem to have this idea that if we can't even gracefully and respectfully deal with one another, how are we going to gracefully and respectfully welcome in new members of the church? So I think without even intending to, I just did kind of plug the way forward, which is coming up. But I urge you all to be at that conversation when it comes up and listen to what the delegates are saying and listen to what the leadership is saying and what we need to talk about, because I can guarantee that if we continue on this path of fighting within the Methodist Church, we will do more damage to ourselves than anything else can.
Thanks. I want to share, so I love Jesus, and I am very much a transient person, and my soul needs community, and I have found that I can find community in church. And I am so blessed that I've grown up knowing and being a part of amazing local churches, that's who I look to first when I move somewhere. And I want to invite my fellow transient people with me to church. And I think that is a beautiful thing of the United Methodist Church, that we can offer people community and connection, whether they are close to home or far away from home, and that we can offer a way to change the world through our missions, which is amazing.
And all the people of God say? Amen. What are 3 things I invite you to tell somebody at your table, or if you're by yourself, as Billy Graham used to say, I'm going to ask you to get up out of your seats and move and find somebody else and just tell them quickly what your 3 things are. Find what 3 things they heard. Then we'll get to final question number 2. Here we go. We're up, we're moving, we're talking. Ready, set, go. Ready, set, go.
Joe, can I say something? You cut me. You don't have to stop. You cut me off. Hey, did you take a picture of all of us up here? Can we do a selfie? Oh, my phone.
27 seconds remaining. 27 seconds remaining.
All right, guys, I'm going to take a selfie. Everyone needs to lean in.
All right.
We're not done yet, though.
Oh, wow. This is a thing we do as millennials, right?
I don't know.
Some of us. Things. What are you going to do differently? What are you going to do differently because of the time these people have invested? Because of the way they've shared so openly, honestly, dare I say transparently? What are you going to do differently in your own church? What are you going to do? Ready, set, go. What are you going to do differently because of this? Somebody here says, I'm not going to be afraid of them anymore.
When you start thinking about change, remember, people don't fear change. People fear the loss that comes from change, and that's universal.
I would be glad to, but let me say my final comment first.
Ladies and gentlemen, 29 seconds. 29 seconds remaining.
To the mic, because they couldn't hear you.
Time's up, and time's up. Over on this side, what's something you're going to do differently? Somebody over here already said, be not afraid. That sounds like something Jesus said. Somebody here said, be not afraid. What else? Something you're going to do differently. Yes?
What?
Yeah. Read the book. Read the book recommended. Can we see the book? Can we hear the title and the author again?
Yes.
See the book, title, and author.
Growing Young, Dr. Kara Powell.
Cool, thank you. Somebody over here, one thing you're going to, yes, sir. Do the best you can every day with who you are and what you have through the power of the Holy Spirit to encourage them in their own faith in Christ and put the negative stuff out of your mind. Somebody go amen.
Amen.
Who else? Somebody right here in the middle. Yes, yes, sir. I see a hand. Thank you. Establish relationships with people this age. Get to know them. Just start talking to them. These are regular people, just like you. Yeah. Time's up. Erin says she has one final concluding statement as soon as Pastor Jessica does. Oh, Pastor Jessica yields the floor and her time to Erin, who has one concluding statement, and I've asked her if she would dismiss us with a prayer. She said she'd be honored. Over to you, Erin.
Just a quick reminder, I love being a young adult, and I love being a pastor in the church, but I'm often reminded that my time is not infinity, and we don't have time to do everything. We love the church, all of us up here do, but we don't always have the chance to serve, or to be fed, or even to rest some days. So value and honor our time as people and as beloved children of God. And just love on us and build relationships. I invite you all to stand with me as we pray. Gracious and holy God, we give you thanks for this beautiful day that you have called and created. God, as we've just heard about a troublesome in our church, God, we're all so confused on how to reach young adults and those who are like us and those who are different. God, we call all the transformational troublemakers to be a part of our lives and our witness in this life of the church. We pray for each and every church in this midst that as we grow and be intentional, that God, we can just share your faith, your truth, and your love. God, let us go forth in your name to best serve you in your glory. In this we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much for coming.